Alright, Year 9, this is lesson 2 of our topic, rates and ratios. Now, lesson 2 is about simplifying ratios. Now, I'll say this a number of times during this topic. Simplifying ratios is like simplifying fractions. If you can simplify fractions, then you won't have any trouble with ratios. So, let's start off with 7 to 21. 7 to 21. Now, we need a number that divides into both 7 and 21. And what we're going to do is we're going to take each of the numbers in the ratio and divide them by that number. So 7 and 21, I think the biggest number we can find that divides into 7 and 21 is 7. So I'm simply going to go 7 divided by 7 and 7, 21 divided by 7 to get the answer. 7 divided by 7 is 1. 21 divided by 7 is 3. So 7 to 21 becomes 1 to 3. Alright, let's do part B. We have 450 to 200. Now we can do this in a couple of ways. We don't have to do it all in one go. I'm going to first very simply say, well, they both end in 0, so they both can be divided by 10. So very simply, we can cross off a 0 here and a 0 here, and suddenly our ratio becomes 45 to 20. Now, a number that goes into 45 and 20 would be, of course, 5. So if we divide both by 5, we will get 9 to 4. And I think that's it, because there are no numbers that divide evenly into 9 and 4. So 450 to 200 becomes 9 to 4. Now, simplifying ratios when it involves fractions is a little bit more complicated, but again, just think about how we simplify fractions. So I'm going to write down 3 over 5 to 1 over 2. Now, to be able to simplify these fractions, we need our denominators the same. So what I plan to do here is to change the bottoms of our fractions to be tens, because I know that 5 and 2 go into 10. So I'm going to set it up like this. Now, changing a 5 to a 10, I'm going to have to times it by 2. But because I've multiplied the bottom by 2, I also have to multiply the top by 2. So 5 times 2 is 10, 2 times 3 is 6. Now let's look at a half. To change 2 to 10, we have to times it by 5. Means we'll also have to times the top by 5. So 2 times 5 is 10, 1 times 5 is 5. Now, because we have tens on the bottom and they're common, the technical way of doing it is saying, well, I can times both of these ratios by 10. The tens will cancel, just like that, and I'm left with 6 to 5. And that we'll do is we'll have a quick check. Can we simplify 6 to 5? Well, there's no numbers that go into 6 to 5, so that is our answer. Now, part B. We have 2 and 1/3 and 2 1 1/4. Now, to simplify mixed numbers, we need to write them as improper fractions first. So 2 and 1/3 becomes 7 on 3. 1 1/4 becomes 5 on 4. And now we simplify it just like we did part A. I'm going to change our denominators to be 12s, because I know that 3 and 4 go into 12. I'm going to times the first proper fraction by 4 at the top and the bottom. So that becomes 3 4s are 12 on the bottom, 7 4s are 28 on the top. 5 over 4. To change the 4 into a 12, I'm going to times by 3. I'm going to times the top by 3. So 4 3s are 12, 5 3s are 15. Okay, just like before. And quick way of doing it is to say, well, I've got 12 is a denominator, which is common on both sides. I can just cross them off like this, and I'm going to end up with 28 to 15. Have a quick check. Are there any numbers that go into 28 and 15? And there aren't, so that is my answer. Alright, example 3, it says first change the quantities to the same units and then express each pair of quantities as a ratio in its simplest form. Now, you must have the same units. Must have the same units when you simplify ratios. So here we've got millimeters and we've got centimeters. It's generally easier to change them to the smallest unit, and then we can simplify. So we're going to change the centimeters here into millimeters. So 2 centimeters is 20 millimeters. So now my ratio is 4 millimeters to 20 millimeters. Now when we have ratios in units, if the units are the same for both numbers, we can just ignore them. So now we have 4 to 20, and I know that 4 goes in 20, so if I divide both by 4, I'll end up with the ratio 1 to 20 divided by 4 is 5. Alright, part B, we've got 25 minutes to 2 hours. So let's change the 2 hours into minutes. So 2 hours is 120 minutes. So now I have 25 minutes to 120 minutes. Because the minutes are common, we can cross them off. Now we have 25 to 120. We can divide both by 5. See what we come up with. 25 divided by 5 is 5. 120 divided by 5 is 24. Now, any common numbers that divide into 5 and 24? There aren't, so that is our ratio.